Now, the period we're dealing with here in history was between 1894 and 1905. Ilikuwa zamani kweli, yeah? But there are useful lessons here to learn about the Nandi, which will be important for us so that we know, we have an idea how to understand them well so that we can predict what's going to happen next in our presidential elections, okay? Now, the Nandis walishinda the British akili, kabisa, yeah? The Nandis are not going to school, they have not learned how to read and write, but they completely outmaneuvered, outsmarted the Brits. So what did the Brits do? They called in their own military tactics genius, yeah? Military tactics specialist, a man by the name Colonel Richard Menatzagen. Okay? Now, Colonel Menatzagen had quite a reputation of coming up with the military tactics that had given the Brits victories all over the place. And it did not take the colonel long to realize that behind the moves the Kalenjin, the Nandis were making, was their leader, Bwana Arap Samoei. And so he plotted for a way to deal with Arap Samoei. His reasoning was simple. Ukitaka kuua nyoka, si unapiga kichwa. So his reasoning was simple. Deal with the leader and deal with this. He'll be able to subdue the Nandi. And so one day in late 1905, the good colonel invited Koitalel and his close advisors to a peace meeting to discuss, a lasting, peaceful solution. So Koitalel and his close military advisors came to the meeting. And while at the meeting, Colonel Menatzagen took a rifle, very powerful rifle. The guy didn't want to take chances, not even a pistol, a powerful rifle. And when Samoei was not looking or noticing what was happening, he put that rifle at the back of Samoei's head and fired, killing him instantly. There's all the evidence to suggest that it was a rifle shot and it was at close range, because to this day, Koitalel's skull is still preserved. It's right now, I understand it's with a Japanese collector. Yeah, the skull of this great Nandi warrior is preserved. And that skull shows that what I'm telling you is absolutely 100% true. It was a rifle fire very close to the back of his head. The Brits are, of course, human beings, and despite their reputation for fair play, they can also be hypocrites sometimes. So this man was taken before the military tribunal. They investigated, they found nothing. And apparently, the whole charges were dropped. He was acquitted, and he went on to become one of the most decorated heroes of the British Army. In fact, he was the chief intelligence officer of the British Army during the Second World War. Yeah, that is Menatzagen for you. Okay, but back to the Nandi. After the death of Koitalel Arap Samoei, the Brits were still not able to defeat the Nandi just like that. In fact, what Menatzagen did, he had put down his plans very well. Immediately after murdering this leader of the Nandi, they did a major importation of very large weapons. Yeah, they had 2 armored trains, and they got over 1,500 Indian, Swahili, and Somali soldiers, 1,300 auxiliaries, 900 armed porters, 10 machine guns, and 2 armored train wagons to come and deal with the Nandis. But still, it took 2 long months and with great casualties to the British, yeah, in this war, so that ujue Wanandis wetu wa kuchezea. Yeah, and finally, but it was clear, without Arap Samoei, the leader there, things were not the same. The brilliant military strategist and leader. So finally, in December 1905, some Nandi elders approached the British and they requested for a peace deal. And that was the end of that particular war. Okay? Now, my point here is that the Nandi are no walkovers. They're very fierce, and the Nandis fear nothing. In fact, in case you didn't know, in the old days, the Nandis used to have circumcision rites that boys would go to, and maybe only half of them would come back alive. I'm not kidding. It was that serious. They would start training people in military things from a young age. Indeed, one of the very interesting things when it comes to military operations and things like that is their mode of communication. They have a secret communication code, which is what they used to outsmart the Brits, and very sadly, but also interesting and fascinating, this communication code came out very clearly during the troubles of 2008. I think I'll just leave it at that. So we already know from that story that the Nandis are used to having their way. number one. Number two, we also know from that story that you don't tell the Nandis what they don't want to hear, even if it is the truth. Yeah, Koitalel Arap Samoei's father lost his life for making a prophecy that was 100% accurate, because finally those Nandi elders went to those Muzungus and they made a peace deal, and they were subdued by this person that this guy had predicted for a long time, had predicted would do exactly that a long time before then. Yeah, and the person died for his prophecy and it came to pass. So you don't tell them something they don't want to hear. And of course, they're very headstrong. Okay, now let us examine what has happened in the past, specifically how a certain crisis which emerged during Daniel Arap Moi's time was dealt with. Yeah, it involved the Nandi. It was a political crisis. It threatened to turn most of the Nandi against President Daniel Arap Moi. Yes, at that time he was in power. In fact, he was going for his last term. And how Moi dealt with it, maybe that will give us a pointer to, what can be done by Jubilee or somebody here to reverse the situation here. Okay, so just catch that in the next and final episode of this series. I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Yeah, and don't forget, click on that link, top left hand corner, and you'll be there immediately. This is Chris Kumekuja. Thank you.